Good morning, Zago. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Great. I'm feeling great. We've just had a really wonderful week at Novo Nordisk here in South Africa. So thank you so much for having me here.
Okay, so
It's exciting times.
I can't wait to spill the tea on the week that you had because I always love hearing about great weeks and wonderful weeks. So we're going to get into that. But for now, I want us to talk about looking at obesity as a chronic disease as opposed to a lifestyle decision. Let's talk about that now. When did that transition now happen?
Yeah, see, that's actually a very important transition, right? Because as you say
Mm.
correctly, it has always been known as a lifestyle disease. Just eat less, exercise a little bit more, just move a little bit more. It is always what we've been told.
Mm.
But we do know now that obesity, in fact, is a chronic disease. It
Mm.
is recognized so by many international bodies, including the World Health Organization. It is classified as a disease because we know that it's not just about lifestyle and we know that it's not just about exercise. It actually is more complex than that. It includes your
Mm.
environmental factors, it includes your genetics also in certain patients as well. And so it does need to be recognized as such.
But now, don't we also have to combat it with the treatments? And I feel like we've been very casual about some of the treatments. The likes of Ozempic are more accessible than alcohol is, and we need to talk about that. I think also with the launch of Wegovy, what makes the treatment different to the existing medications?
So both Ozempic and Wegovy contain the same active ingredient, which we call semaglutide. It's important to make a distinction between the two, that Ozempic is indicated in the treatment of type 2 diabetes, whereas Wegovy is indicated and designed specifically and studied for the treatment of management of overweight and obesity. So you will find the fundamental differences between the two is that semaglutide 2.4, which is Wegovy, has a lot more higher doses. And so that is why, in fact, it was designed in that sense for specifically to treat obesity and not necessarily diabetes. So that's the fundamental difference, that when you say Ozempic, we're talking about type 2 diabetes. But then when you say Wegovy, that's high dose semaglutide indicated in the treatment of obesity.
And what's interesting for me is accessibility, especially with these types of medications, especially with Ozempic. When I think about the pricing of Ozempic last year, this time was not like what it was now. We're seeing spikes, and it's almost like the Competition Commission takes a back seat when it comes to, the increase of demand and therefore supply, therefore pricing. With Wegovy, is it competitive in that sense? Are we looking at the same prices, or, in terms of accessibility, what are we expecting here?
Um, so these type of medications, right, your GLP-1 class type of medications, you're going to find that are almost priced, I wouldn't say the same necessarily, but they kind of in the same area in terms of ballpark. And you're going to find that Wegovy comes in at those types of prices. So it is competitive, bearing in mind also the types of patients that are going to be accessing these type of treatments. It is affordable to them. I would like to believe we do in South Africa have a really good price to be able to access Wegovy as far as possible for as many people as possible. Of course, yes, we're not going to have universal coverage of Wegovy from day one, right? Just like many other treatments that are available out there outside of obesity itself. I think you're going to find that with our two-tiered type of healthcare system in South Africa, within the state sector, we still do not have a lot of what we consider innovative medicines. And so this is not something that is uniquely within the obesity space only. So while access is important to us, it's nothing that you're not going to achieve overnight, you know. So part of what I do at Novo Nordisk is basically to engage with the payers, to engage with government alike, you know, to find ways and find a common ground between ourselves, you know, to say, how do we ensure that all patients that could benefit from these innovative medicines do actually access them? We're very much conscious, you know, of the fact that innovation without access is inertia, right? There's no point. There's no point in developing these technologies, yet they can't, you know, be accessed by the very patient who deserve them. And so it's an ongoing conversation between ourselves as a manufacturer, the payers themselves as people that fund these medications, but then government also as a largest procurer of medicines in the country. So that conversation is ongoing, and we hopefully soon, you know, hope that the majority of the patients would be able to access these. But for now, those who can access it should be able to do so at relatively competitive prices compared to the other treatments available within this drug class.
Those who can access it will live to tell the story, I guess. Because one thing about us, when it comes to things like demand, we kind of create the accessibility channels when we increase the demand. So I guess those who are using Wegovy will create that demand through the results, right? But I want to know, are we engaging the medical aids as well? Are we talking to them? Are we giving them a space for them to kind of combat the accessibility issue that we have?
So I'll tell you this, Nzako, right? In South Africa, there's only 9 million people that are able to access a medical aid in this country. So that is the 15% that we refer to within the population of South Africa. The rest of the population, which is about 85%, depends on government for all of their healthcare. And so when you speak about medical aids, this is only limited to 9 million people. And for me, that's a staggering state. And this is why it's important for us also as a company, you know, to support universal healthcare coverage. Whether that comes in a form of NHI is a conversation. We don't know, right? But there has to be eventually some level of universal healthcare coverage so that all the people of South Africa are able to access these latest technologies. But coming back to your question more specifically around whether or not there's a conversation between us and the medical aids, it's the reason I'm fundamentally employed, right? My job is to wake up every single day, go and have a discussion with the medical aids to say, how do we make sure that all the relevant population within your scheme are able to access these medications? So at what price point would you be able to? Because remember, we talk about affordability here, but then at the same time, we also talk about the right price, we talk about the right patient, and we talk about the right treatment. And if you look at that, what is it that we can do working as a collective? So ourselves, the patient, and you as a medical aid, what is the sweet spot to be able for us to make sure that all these treatments are accessible to the large majority of the scheme population? I think you're going to find that there are fundamental issues around how we price medications in South Africa as well, right? Because we use what we call single exit price. Now, single exit price is something that is governed by the Council of Medical Schemes. And if you look at those regulations around pricing of medicines in South Africa, they dictate that pricing has to be transparent, that pricing has to be the same, irrespective of where you live within the country. Yet, if you look at other countries outside of South Africa, they are able to do, bonus and they're able to do discounting deals. They're able to do those type of things because let's be honest, right? Medical schemes are not the same. You get a big medical aid, you get an intermediate one, you get a small one. And what would basically increase accessibility to these medications is if we were allowed as manufacturers to go into those types of arrangements where we could basically approach, say, for example, a large medical aid that has thousands and thousands of patients, and we could have a certain price discount for them, and just depending on the scale of the patients that you have in your medical schemes, we could potentially design a price that is relevant for that medical scheme. But unfortunately, in South Africa, like unlike in other countries, this is not permissible in law, irrespective of whether you belong to a very low scheme option or you've got the Rolls Royce of a medical scheme. The price is the same. Irrespective of your income, the price is the same for you. So that for us creates a little bit of a problem because we're not allowed to come up with alternative reimbursement models so that we can reach more people, with our drugs. But as I say, it is an ongoing conversation, to see whether there are possibilities between ourselves, government, civil society, medical schemes themselves, to be able to find a good solution.
So, without taking away the disease aspect of it, right? Because I do acknowledge that, but I also feel it's a lifestyle thing. So, I'm a former overweighty, and I know how easy it is to fall
And you own
into.
it, Mpako.
Pardon?
And you own it. You own your story.
Listen,
A
it's my
former
truth.
overweight.
It's my truth. I'm a former that. I mean, you can't take that away from me. The pictures are there. I can't be like, oh no, this is what I did. No, I literally was overweight and that's it. I don't want to be embarrassed by it because it adds to the stigma that we attach to weight. Instead of just addressing it as a glitch, this is just it's a glitch that we need to fix. The fact that there are still solutions for it makes me believe that it's a glitch. We can fix it, right? Everything is where it needs to be now, so that's why we can own it. But one of the major contributing factors to that glitch was the lifestyle. It was not paying attention to the food that I was consuming. It was not paying attention to the liquor that I was consuming. It was not paying attention to the life I was living, not exercising, not, sleeping well. All these things now married together, you can understand the disaster that was headed for me. So, what lifestyle changes, though, do we need to be cognizant of? Because, yes, we can take Wegovy, right? But if you're still intaking the food that you were taking in before, I mean, really, like, let's be honest, guys. Like, I don't want us to also lie to each other and say, here's the solution. Your lifestyle doesn't have to change. There must be a bit of a change in what you consume as well.
I like what you say, around you owning your story and the stigma that is attached to it. It's something that is also central to us at Novo Nordisk in that yes, if you look at the indication of the drugs, they would refer to as the treatment and management of obesity because that's just what it's called scientifically, right? But in just everyday language, we moved from calling people obese to calling people patients living with obesity. And now lately that's also changed again because now we refer to people, these type of individuals, as people living with obesity because you recognize the stigma that is attached to calling someone obese because it doesn't lend well. Honestly speaking, it really doesn't. If you called that, you could get stuck in just being offended by the term itself. And that could deter certain people from actually seeking treatment early. And in terms of your question around, you were asking around, the lifestyle attached to it and where we are now. So as far as that is concerned, right, I think it's going to be going forward important that we recognize that it doesn't start in you as an adult, right? Later on in life, it actually starts quite early. And because of that, we understand that while our drugs are indicated correctly in adults, and in also adolescents as well, but it's not always that people are going to just start treatment as soon as they identify as either overweight or obese. In fact, you do want to give lifestyle intervention a chance before you get onto these drugs. And actually, if you look at our label correctly, Wegovy is indicated in, as adjunct to lifestyle modification, which is exercise and diet, right? So it's not necessarily the holy grail. We don't, we're not coming out there and saying people should actually just go onto Wegovy from day one as soon as they identify themselves as people living with overweight or obesity. Do start off correctly, with just amending, looking basically into what you eat, but then also looking at introduction of exercise, and that you do together with being on the product. And that's how you get really good results from these drugs, by making sure that you complement them with your effort as well.
Thabeng, where do we find Wegovy? Where do we find you guys as well? Because I'm sure there are people already saying, okay, the lifestyle, I'm trying to tone it down. I'm taking walks, but I need that booster nyan. I need that something where it's just going to gaga, activate the weight loss.
So it's available at all pharmacies. I'm told as of this morning that it's available in many, many corporate pharmacies, and the rest of the other independent pharmacies as well will continue to get stock in the new week. On Monday, which is tomorrow, you should be able to get it at any pharmacy near you. And also, there is a website, because you asked about where you find us. So it's www.novonordisk.com. But also people can access our website, which basically have all things obesity on it. If you'd like some information, it's www.truthaboutweight.com. There also is a patient support program for patients that are going to be going onto these type of products. They will find that in their packaging, there's details of where they can access the support services that they require.
Amazing stuff. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe next time we speak, I'm going to be significantly different because of Wegovy. We're looking forward to that.